Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam. Good morning. Welcome to the Java Cafe, Java fam.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. Let me just fix this camera real quick. It is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. And do me a favor, while I try to adjust this real quick, go and hit the share button real quick. We're talking this morning about racial justice and the work that my good friend and sister Lori Nelson is doing in the city of Boston. I think that's a little bit better. She heard me fussing a little bit because I need a whole tech overview. We've exhausted everything that we purchased and got in 2020. And so now it's time to upgrade. But we're not here to talk about that this morning. We're here to talk about racial justice. I've known this young lady for over 10, if not close to 15, if not more years. And she comes from a family of work in the community. Her mom, and I believe dad is actually honored at the Freedom Plaza down at the Embrace Memorial. She's a woman of faith. She's a strategist. She's a political operative. She's here in her formal role this morning, so we're not going to talk about that. But it is an honor and pleasure to bring my good friend and sister into the room this morning. And that is none other than the good Reverend. No, I'm not going to. You know, the mayor doesn't mind having clergy in the administration. It's a precedence, and Reverend Mariama was here a few weeks ago, and she preached. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the good Reverend Nelson. Lori, this is going to be very interesting. I just really realized that we're going to have to remember that we're on the show and like not on the call.
Yeah.
How are you this morning? Is it Chief? I know you're a senior advisor, but is it Chief?
No. So it shifted.
It shifted.
It shifted. So I am now senior advisor for racial justice for the city. Formerly, I was the chief resilience officer for the city of Boston. And so, you know this history, Jay. You know, I came after the first CRO ever appointed.
Hold on. Before we go into that, because you just want to go right to the work.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Say good morning to the people.
Oh,
greet the people.
So let me do this right, because I realize I messed up really with the props, Jay. Right, because this is Java with Jimmy. So your girl has not even had the Java. So let me back up. Let me start again. Okay. Good morning. I am really excited to be here with my good friend and brother, James Hills, who I've known for many, many, many years, but, I've watched him in this work in other spaces.
I said you, Lori.
Listen to me. Let me do me, and then you can do you. You see how you do me? Okay? So
this is my
I know it is your show. Let me do protocol. It is your show. Let me come back to it. It is your show. No, I'm just playing. No, but I grew up in Boston. You talked about my mom and dad. Kind of followed their footsteps in this whole civil rights journey. I love working for the people, our people. I love being able to disrupt and agitate things. That's what we try to do most often in this type of work. But I'm a Boston native. I have lived in Grove Hall for some 30 plus years. I have had great mentors and people who I've worked with and grown up in community with throughout my journey. I'm a product of Project Reach and Freedom House. I went to
Okay.
Northeastern University, studied African American history and English literature. Shout out to my favorite dean of all time, albeit he is now Dr. Motley, but
I
my
still call
dean.
him Dean Motley.
How about that, Dean Motley? Right. Um, I am. I know what I'm supposed to talk about me, but my pride and joy is a 14-year-old young man who I am raising. My son Malachi, who is a combination. It's very scary to watch, right? And not in a bad way. It's like, wow, right? He's a combo of my dad, my mom, and me, and I don't know what to do with that. But yeah, that's who I am.
That's who you are. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're glad we were able to get that accomplished. And so you were getting ready to go in, and because I'm familiar,
Yeah.
Dr. Tia Martin, under the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Tell us about, though your role has evolved, it came from a partnership
Mhm.
from a funder that was
Mhm.
looking at cities doing a lot around equity and justice. And so
Mhm.
um, give us about 30 seconds of that, and then go into the shift of what the mayor
Sure.
is now focused your work on.
Sure. So, came out of the Rockefeller Foundation, its origins.
Rockefeller,
It
sorry.
was no worries. And Boston was selected to put together a proposal that would, much like the other cities, 100 cities in that network at the time, look at resilience, right? How does Boston combat resilience? Dr. Martin took a twist, right? Dr. Martin said, so resilience also must encompass and begin to explore race matters, right? So,
Yep.
so whereas other cities dealt with resilience, and albeit a very uh, um, top of mind item to discuss, and certainly priority of climate resilience, right? So
Yes. Yep.
Atia, Dr. Martin, forgive me, came in and said, okay, in addition to those spaces, let us also consider what the impact of race has done
Yep.
relative to resilience and how a city tries to transform. So that was the way it started.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. It morphs into where we land now under Mayor Wu's watch, where these core tenets of incorporating racial justice, making sure those persons who are historically underserved, marginalized, and not at the table, whose voices certainly are loud, are vocal, and move, but are amplified, right, by this work, is now part of how we continue to try to move the city forward, not only on race matters, but also ensuring internally that a government infrastructure sees race as not only a priority, but how we must continue to govern and look at policy programs and practice that fit and begin to also incorporate those voices that we're fighting for.
So you went in that position pre George Floyd. How
Mm-hmm.
much and I'm sure that the mayor's peer review, and I believe that happened under Mayor Walsh,
Mm-hmm.
how much of the intensity of your work changed since May of 20? I'm sure there was
Yeah,
some morphing there
yeah,
as well.
yeah. So I think it was there seemed to be a heightened sense of, whether it be awareness, Jay, and just flow with me on this, as
Yeah,
in
go ahead.
people wanted to understand how to support, how to help, what does it look like
Mhm.
to try to either be an ally if you were not black or brown, right?
Yep.
Or intensify our need and demand for justice, right? And so that gets amplified after George Floyd. And then to the extent where, if you recall, under the previous administration, there was a declaration made of race being a public health crisis, right? And then,
Presented by
right, you remember,
Councilor Ricardo Arroyo, and then the
right?
mayor adopted it, signed it,
That's right.
signed it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Right. And then, in addition to that, as we fast forward even into now, and how this current administration is looking at race matters, it's very critical. And it speaks volumes to some extent, right, of the emphasis on how a city government and infrastructure will now look at race matters, will look at this voice, will look at this constituency and embed it into how we actually govern, right? And it takes a while Jay, you know this, right? Like this won't happen
Yeah.
overnight,
Yep.
right? But that's where we find ourselves now. Yeah.
I've been saying that it's a paradigm shift, but also saying that it's a paramind shift
I like that.
because
I like that.
after we've cited, the mayor's named it historically, that
Hmm.
space in which you dwell has not always been favorable toward Black and brown people. And so the fact that and we got to shout out, Joyce Linehan, they all, got that started
Hmm.
with the Rockefeller Foundation. And so now it's to a point that we're post George Floyd. Where is the work today? What is your office doing? I know you're part of the equity cabinet, but
Hmm.
you actually have an office with staff. Uh,
Hmm.
what's the name of your office? And tell us like what you're working on now, what's coming down the pike. And there was a lot there, but also how can the community support you
Hmm.
in this work? Because it is definitely a paradigm, paramind, all type of para
Right.
shifts.
All
Well,
type of
all type
parachutes,
of
right?
para shifts.
So, the office now is, it's under, of course, you named it, the Equity Inclusion Cabinet. Our focus is on racial justice, right? And so we have a couple of buckets that we work toward, right? One is truth and reconciliation. What we realize is that, you know, our history suggests that we have been storytellers. We have told our narrative for centuries, right? But this narrative also pushes and challenges, right? This narrative also brings reality to a history that we live and
Mhm.
live daily, right? So part of it, Truth and Reconciliation, is this dialogue series that we do in community, where we gather community and we talk about our narrative, right? Our narrative that comes with, of course, slavery and post-slavery, but it also comes with, and not to simplify that, right? It also comes with some of the ways that this city of Boston,
Uh-huh.
really navigated our journey forward, right? Like looking at some of our civil rights work that we've done through organizations, the organizations that remain pillars to our community, right? We can put a parking lot there because there's an argument that would suggest that some of these institutions are outdated or not as relevant as before, right? But some of these pillars that helped us to even get to where we are some of the conversations that become part of how we continue to look at Black Boston, not only here, but then how we have influenced the nation, right? So those conversations happen, but also deal with truths about current reality about neighborhoods. We are still dealing with um, disparities. We're still dealing with I say the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we have these real bold conversations in community that help to address that, but then also begin to look at a way to collectively look at what restoration looks like, right? How does a community look at these things that have been triggering or traumatizing, or to some extent have been the narrative of a city? And then how do we begin to repair? Like, what does that look like for James Hills and a Lori Nelson who may come from different parts of a city or different parts of a neighborhood, but have a similarity based on ethnicity or culture or
Mhm.
experience, right? How do we come together now and have conversations, some difficult, some light, in between, and then move that forward? That's one. The second will be what we are beginning this journey about, which is reparations,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. I saw that task force
Yeah,
appointment and
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're are you the mayor's lead with that? At some point I saw your name as one of the.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And so I would be. It would not be right of me not to lay the foundation in this way, right? You always give credit where credit is due.
Yep.
Counselors Mahia,
Mhm.
Anderson, Fernandez, Worrell, I think were the top three, were the three, in addition to others, and certainly community work and organizations like your NAACPs, your Embraces, the Trotter Institute, and others certainly laid a foundation of work for the past almost year and a half, 2 years, to get us to where we are now, right?
Gotcha.
So as you well know, it is signed.
Yep.
It is now an ordinance, and then our charge is to take it to the next chapter, right? That is to work with this task force that was named and to begin the three components of that ordinance. Number one is that the task force will work closely with community and engage in community sessions and the like to hear and to do research and understand what it is that we should be putting forward, right? Number two, certainly out of this, we are hopeful that persons will come up through a process that will allow for consultants to actually scope and define how we are going to move this work forward. Third, which is key for me, is those recommendations, right? So after we go through this work, right, Jay, what would be out of the research, out of the work that consultants will do and others, like what is it that Boston will recommend and move forward with relative to how we deal with that, right? You said money. Well, I will share with you, here's what I've heard. And Jay, I'll be clear, right? So, I've heard many different angles. It would be foolish not to say that, of course, people are thinking money relative to 40 acres and a mule, money relative to land, right? And that is true, right? I have also heard persons talk about, again, going back to truth and reconciliation and how we are intentional about repairing that harm, repairing that space where persons have actually put on as unfortunately a weight, right, of what it is meant to carry this through. And so it is, when we had started this journey in the city council hearings last year, I give credit to Councilor Tanya Anderson, who said, if you had to define reparations, what would that mean? And again, at first, of course, money came up, Jay, but then I began to think about studying and looking at our people and the journey of our people. And it certainly took a toll, mind, body, soul, spirit, right? The entire person. And so how do we then bring that into what we will look at as a city recommends moving forward on reparations?
I mean, there are some things, and we 40 acres and a mule is definitely the first point of reference, kind of the most popular, piece. And I know there's a lot of work nationally, as you mentioned, Embrace. They had a conversation about it during the festival. And, I've even heard from some of our folks, this is good, this is wonderful. But let's say one of the recommendations is actual money. Then the city is now faced with finding that in the budget. How do you delineate who is actually a descendant and who is entitled and all that? So this one, I don't want people to think that, within a year or two, they're going to open up their mailbox and see a check signed by Mayor Wu for $5,000. No, this is it's systems and structures. And we have to name, because some of the trolls and stuff are pushing back. We see that the governor is sort of, I'm not saying this. The governor has continued some of the things that the mayor has done with the task force she appointed yesterday, with some very, very key people who know this work. Shout out to Tanisha Sullivan and also Tony Richards, who are the co-chairs of that. And so in Boston and in Massachusetts, there is this sort of cadence and movement around equity. You reference to the fact that it isn't going to happen overnight. What is it that you would say to a population that needs to really understand that this is decades and centuries of unraveling intentional systems and structures to keep us down? What is it that you would say to Black and brown folks around holding the line?
I mean, that's good, Jay, because I wrestle with that myself, right? So in this role, I'm always being transparent. It always gets me in trouble, but you're Jay, and we do what we do, right? So at the end of the day, this work is extremely hard, right? Like the reality is there are days when I'm like, I'm done. Like for real, like I would go somewhere else because you were chipping at something that has been here for centuries, right? And so, what you realize is you also have to take with that some of the wins, right? Like,
absolutely.
So for example,
Gina mentioned that the other night.
Right. So like, for example, you name, I don't want to mess up the name. Is it the Empowerment Council? What is it? What is the official name?
Empowerment Task Force.
Right. Task Force.
I think. Hold on. I'm about to go look.
That's what it is, right? The Empowerment Task Force, right? And that is a win for our people, because this body of people who were appointed, number one, comes from different sectors of Black or brown community,
Yep.
come with a, like, I mean, you talking about a resume of experience, right, Jay? Like, I mean, I look at the room,
I looked at the
right?
list and I was like,
Look
oh,
at the room. And but was I give credit to what I believe was also looking at persons who historically have not been at the table to also begin to start chipping away. So,
yeah,
what I'm saying is, even as we do this day to day, part of this journey is meeting people in community who also want to lend whatever they bring to the table to help dismantle, right? To help chip away. And I think on those days, you find hope, right? You find this,
absolutely.
like, oh, okay, this is why we do what we do, right? Like, because it can get heavy, right? I mean, 400 plus years of racism, slavery, all of these things. Jay, it would be foolish for us to think that tomorrow will solve, right? First and foremost, is a conditioning that has to happen, or a reconditioning.
Paramind
Come
shift.
on, sir, come on, right? Because, and you and Jay, in your former capacities, you've been here in this hall, you've been on the other hill. That some of these matters predate us, our parents,
And
right?
let's say no cap, an administration, Flynn couldn't do it.
Hello.
No, White perpetuated some of it. Flynn couldn't do it. Menino tried to do some. Marty
Mm-hmm.
did some stands. This happened
Mm-hmm.
under his admin. Then there was Mayor Janey, our first Black mayor,
Hello.
and then
Yep.
now Mayor Wu. So that's the balance often, Lori, that is so interesting, because those systems and structures are doing it. People that are in the positions at the current time, if they want to take the good, they have to
Mm-hmm.
also, while they're time, take the
Mm-hmm.
challenges as
Mm-hmm.
well. And so it is years gnawing at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, Jay, how we offset that here in this work with racial justice. The theme for Black History, or the national theme for Black History Month, was Black resistance. I believe that's correct, yes. And so when we kicked off Black History Month this year, you know, we looked at what resistance means to us. And within that, we also celebrate who we are as a people. So whereas we certainly come from a legacy of persons who fight, persons who are considered resilient, right, because of the journey, we also know that we have to celebrate what we bring to the table, right? So our contributions, right? So throughout Black History Month, Jay, we did different events and partnered with different organizations to celebrate who we are,
Yeah.
just being, right? To be Black, right? So we celebrated by way of events that we did in community. We always try to do give back events and events that meet people where they are, because here's the reality. At the end of the day, albeit we have made advances, albeit there's a Java with Jimmy now, there's an empowerment council on the hill. There's this work that
I got it right. It's the
right
Governor's Advisory Council,
advisory
Black
council.
Empowerment.
There it is for Black empowerment. Okay, so we have these spaces that are wins, but we also have persons who are really just trying to survive, right? So you have to meet people where they are, Jay. And so part of the work that we try to do is make sure that we, as much as we can, bring joy, right? Bring hope, right? Bring hopefully healing and reconciliation by these conversations and by way of just celebrating who we are. It's why we're strategic in who we partner with, trying to lift up our historic institutions for a reason, because they matter, right? There are certain things that we try to do that will help people to understand not only that we are a priority, we are important, we matter, but then here's why, right? And we have to be a part of how we move a city forward. So
It's so, to that point, is so interesting, and I think you'll get this. There was a brother that in 2020 he hit me and he said, "Bro, I can't type Black Lives Matter." And at first I was like, what? And then when I began to think about it, the fact that we have to overexert
Yeah.
ourselves. Someone
Yeah.
was on yesterday, I think it was Leon Rivera, that was saying for Black and brown folks, we almost start out to some level of a negative. And it's just, I think it's great that this is happening. But if there was true equity, all this energy could be put into improvement of quality of life. You know, and equity includes everybody, but we also know that when Black folks do well, so do everybody else.
That's the
You know,
word.
so, and tell whoever that is emailing you right now tomorrow, I see you on Facebook. No, I'm messing. But Lori, what can we look forward to? I know that the NAACP convention is coming, sort of a reschedule in 2020. Not a
Mhm.
lot of details, but at least can we tell folks what dates they need to save?
Sure, absolutely. You know, coming out of that organization, being a girl, a woman of protocol, certainly recognize that. You know, the convention will come. Are you laughing at me for protocol? Y'all,
Yes.
okay. Can I just talk to your audience for a second? So again, Jay and I go way back, and these things like protocols and stuff actually comes out of church culture. So when he hears me say that, he'll start chuckling. Anyway, so the national convention will be here July 26th through August 1st. You know, the Boston branch of the organization certainly, will be the place where you can go to get additional information, to get all of the details. Certainly, Meet Boston will also have a lot of the details relative to what will be happening when the organization comes. You know, this is an organization that is the oldest civil rights organization in the nation, right? And again, I think I started off with this, Jay, for some that still holds weight. For others, it's like, okay, what have you done for me lately? Like, what are you doing now? Like that relevancy card, right? So I'm making, my mom, and Jay knows my mom, y'all. So my mom kind of schooled me recently. She was like, so, because I go back and forth with it, I do, coming out of the organization, I will always defend the organization for its raising me about how to lead and how to look at the things that we name, Jay, as critical parts of how we move forward, right?
Yeah.
But everyone didn't get that training, right? Everyone didn't get that. And so there's the argument of, okay, how is it relevant today? And my mom was like, Laura, you realize, when they start the mother talks, Jay, it's over, right? She's like, you do realize that if it had not been for this organization, I don't care who you all think you are. When my mom goes here, Jay, you've heard mom, right? It's over.
And she gives you that little look.
Yes, Lord. She was like, if y'all don't recognize that, if it wasn't for the people whose shoulders you stand on, those
Wait a
who
minute.
lead
Hold on.
Mhm.
What's the dates again? July. Hold on. It just hit me. Am I?
What's just happened?
Oh, I'm here.
Man,
I'm
what
here.
you
I needed
doing?
to,
Okay.
because
You
if
good?
it was July 6th,
Okay.
I've been wishing y'all well from
Why are you acting up? Anyway, so
uh,
my mom was like, just be very mindful of the sacrifices that were made through this organization and through others, so that something like the council we named, something like a task, like these things could exist, right? And so, when you hear that, that does something to you, right?
yeah.
Because, it makes you understand what we are continuing to share in this conversation, Jay, right? The richness of our history, the power of our people, right? And then how we, whether it's through the organization called an NAACP, an organization called an Urban League,
Yep.
an organization called Boston Law Black, an organization called BECMA, an organization called what's my man Sean Brown's organization, whatever the case may be, right? All of these organizations, the institutions like a Freedom House, like I'm seeing it now and I see his face, but like a Dorchester Bay, like all of these spaces, right? Like that's why we should continue to do what we do, right? This is why we continue to fight. This is why we will go hard, right? Because these pillar institutions laid the foundation so that we can actually do it,
It's imperative, and that's one of the things that came up in 2020, and trying to have this intergenerational conversation.
Yeah.
As we get ready to wrap up, I do want to just say that you're so on point, because the conversation I had with Dart and Sheena the other night
Mhm.
was about the fact that, thank God we have a Dart because the Mel Kings and the Sarahs and whatnot told him the stories.
Yeah.
So we're getting ready to like get him that. People want another session with them to and we probably have to do it because I need to tell y'all that the tech didn't work and the video came out terrible because folks are waiting on the video to drop, but that's a whole nother told you I need a tech upgrade. So if you all put out any equity grants for
I hear you. That's your plug. That's your plug. I heard your plug. You're
but no, it is so important that these stories take place. And I asked Dart the other night how much of this work impacts in telling the stories violence prevention. Because as these young kings and queens begin to learn and understand that they came from royalty and all the sacrifices that were made, some will say it's a little far-fetched, Jimmy, but the right person I just saw the snow. The right person hearing that is impactful. There's the NAACP piece that you had. There's the 2 pillars that you talked about around reparations and truth and reconciliation. Is there anything that we missed?
No, I mean, we have some key events that we do every year, right? That we do in partnership with community, and certainly, I know we're running out of time, but one of them that piloted last year is something called Artivism. Part of the work is also succession planning, right? So we just
Artivism, and that was with the good nephew, Danny Rivera led a lot of that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so Artivism really tries to look at how we continue this work of social justice, racial justice through expression. That is through art, right? And so we have partnered with
this is art. I've been trying to put that out there because this is an artistic creative space. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we have I think it's in partnership. I don't think it is in partnership with BAA and others. Certainly giving a shout out to Danny Rivera, who was the architect and the visionary for it. How do you express, how do young people's voices, how do young people's feelings, how do young people's experiences relative to racial justice, relative to social justice become part of our narrative, right? Whether it be through dance, whether it be through song, whether it be through poetry, whether it be through the
conversations,
arts, right? So
curated conversations.
Exactly. So that is what we are doing year 2. More information will be coming out on that very soon. That's how we try to give back and really reach for leaders, not only current leaders, but leaders of the future, right?
Yeah.
And then the last piece that we do is we try to continue, again, the narrative through culture, right? So we do culture nights and those things in the spring and summer that bring our narrative to life in different neighborhoods, again, via the arts, via expression, via bringing in persons like a Lamerchi Frazier and a Jeff Rogers and others who can also spark conversation and bring our narrative to a full space of people receiving and feeling that they're a part of how we build it forward. So all of this, Jay, you could see on our website.
Shout out to your communications director who's in the room this morning. Ayana.
Yeah.
Learn more about the Equity Cabinet and Lori's work at www.boston.gov/equity. Ayana is in the room, and she also said she's proud to work alongside you.
But she's no Sister Polk does it right. So
I was looking for her yesterday, and listen, Mari introduced. I'm sorry, Chief. Say the last name.
The Chief Mariangeli Solis Severe.
Solis Severe, yes. So she introduced someone yesterday, and I thought she said they were the comms person. And so Michael O was walking out. When I walked out, I pulled him aside. I said, "Where's Ayana?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Did she say comms?" He was like, No, not comms. They're doing something else." And so, Ayana, we're glad to know you're still there running comms and doing what you're doing and holding down the whole Equity Cabinet, brother. So that includes. So you're with Brother Frank,
yes,
Quincy,
yes,
the Women's Commission, Office of Women's Advancement,
Office of Immigrant Advancement.
Yeah,
language access and communication. I am missing one. Oh my gosh, disabilities, and I am missing one. And Ayana will help me
that's
out.
One of your coworkers.
Ayana will help me out. Please.
Ayana,
help me out.
What's the other one? Ayana's downstairs or next door to the.
Doing typing,
no, she just pulled out her. Her org chart is right there on her.
But yeah.
It is imperative, though, that this human rights.
That's right. Thank you, AP.
Ayana,
Thank you, AP.
See,
that's why she's here.
That's
AP.
and fair housing.
And fair housing. And let me shout out, can I shout this out? And I
Yes.
think people need to understand this, right? Our cabinet is certainly multi-generational, right? And I'm gonna give credit where credit is due. This brother, Bob Terrell, who is the head of our fair housing component, has been one of those fighters. There are people, let me say this, and I know we have to go, but Jay, you studied movement, right? So the civil rights movement would suggest that there's certainly those persons who are your iconic front runners that were in the light all the time.
Yep.
There were always people in the background, though, who were strategists and also kind of moved things from a policy space or tried to really connect dots that you would not see every day, but certainly advanced our mission, our movement, our people. Bob Terrell has been one of those fierce fighters relative to housing and justice for a number of years.
I
will shout out with I will give a shout out to Bob Terrell, who I believe joined the team in January, but certainly comes with a wealth of knowledge not only on housing advocacy, housing rights, really fair housing, and how to ensure that our people get what is just due, and also their rights as they navigate housing, as they try to get housing, as they try to get. So he is that guy. So just want to shout out.
So I might need to talk to Mr. Terrell on a personal issue, because people that pay their rent and can't get stuff fixed in an orderly fashion. I'm just gonna leave it right there.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah.
But Chief, I'm still gonna say Chief, but no, Lori, I really appreciate this. This is a long time coming to have this clarity, so folks know. Don't forget that you can go get more information about Lori's shop and the whole equity cabinet at www.boston.gov/equity. This is the department that is responsible for equity. This is the cabinet, but this particular part of the cabinet is responsible for racial and social justice, leaning towards equity. So, Lori, I appreciate you. We'll need to check in and do this again. I will see you later this week, and I'll know shortly if I'll be able to make post up another announcement about, another interview I'm going to have later this week. This is somewhat
Absolutely.
related.
I see you on.
We have to wait until the meeting until we get the confirmation. But yes, Lori, love you. Give Mally and Mother my best. And I'll be in touch. And Ayana, hold on. Let me make sure this comment wasn't from her. We didn't miss anything. Oh, Heidi's on, Lori. Heidi says hi.
Is that Elder? Hi, is that Elder?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Elder, may God bless. Thank you, Elder. How you doing?
He said just check out the website. Lots going on, and so absolutely. All right, Lori. Thank you, and I'll be in touch. Tell Susan and Danny I said hey.
You got it.
And we'll talk. Love you.
Love you too. Thank you, Jay. Peace.
Absolutely. Bye-bye. So now you are aware of the wonderful work that goes on over there in the oh Jesus, just that quick. In Lori's office and the cubicles around her office and all throughout City Hall. Let's just leave that right there. That's it for us today. The snow started, and outside of what's sticking on cars, and I have to shout out my brother Kevin. He put up a post yesterday that every time there's a snow prediction, that Boston turns into a whole mini series. Now, y'all know, based on what it looks like right now, if the mayor canceled school, y'all would have had a fit. Now, what are things going to look like at 1 o'clock? I don't know, but let's. I was just talking about Brother Danny. There he go. Danny might be getting ready to pop on because I was talking trash. Let's see what the weather says for this afternoon as far as and let me say, hold on. So, according to the weather app, I see 80% of snow from now all the way until 9 p.m. And the temperature at the highest is going to be at 37. And so while 37 is not a freezing temperature, if the atmosphere is 37 and precipitation is coming down, that air, it gets a wind chill factor as it's coming down, and it can convert into snow. And so with this 80% all the way till 9 o'clock, I don't know what this afternoon is going to look like. But as of right now, y'all know if the mayor cancels school, y'all be having a fit. So we just need to stay tuned and see what happens. I need to mention, again, shout out to Governor Maura Healey. You remember she dropped not exactly that statement, but she did drop here on Java with Jimmy that she was really going to do a lot when it comes to the equity of Black and brown people, specifically Black people. I have to shout out my friend and sister, who is the co-chair, Tanisha Sullivan, president of the NAACP, also co-chair. I sat with the mayor yesterday with the men's commission meeting, and I watched this brother break down recommendations about housing. And I literally sat back in my chair and folded my arms and just looked. Somebody nudged me. They was like, "Why are you smiling?" Because I was like, I'm so proud of him. Brother Tony Richards is the co-chair of this. There are some members that I'm going to name that I know and respect their work. Sheena Collier is the president of Boston Wild Black, the founder and CEO of Boston Wild Black. Nicole Olby, who is the president of BECMA. Also, Trina Martin, who's down at BMC, vice president of community engagement and external affairs. Michael Bobbitt, who has been, Representative Bud Williams, who is the chair of the Black and Latino Caucus. Kind of excited about his leadership. They're going to probably get back to doing a lot. Michael Bobbitt, executive director of the Mass Cultural Council. He's been on. Reverend Willie Baldrick, senior pastor of the historic 12th Baptist Church. He's been on. Shara Gadsden, who's a friend, who is the co-founder and co-executive director of the Boston HBCU Alumni Network. Also the chief equity and strategy officer for Boston Public Schools. Also Dr. Makiba McQuarrie from the New Commonwealth Fund. Carolyn Crockett, shout out to her. She's going to be on in March for Women's History Month. Also Dr. Thea James, who has been on at BMC. Also John Borders the fourth. So that's Matt. And Reverend Bethia Carter, who is on the New England Blacks in Philanthropy. So there are some great folks on that advisory task force that the governor put together. And so for anyone that's wondering why all this focus on Black and are we going to have this and we going to have that, very few other marginalized people have suffered the way we've suffered. And so now it's time that these systems and structures realize that they got some splaining to do. Anyway, all right, I'm going to get ready to get off of here. Nikki said the roads are clear right now in reference to, we're trying to incorporate it, Ayana. There's so much I want to do. Y'all pray, y'all. I want a building so bad. Because I honestly think the reason I'm looking a little orange with the green all up around here is because I had to take everything apart to do Sunday night and then rush to put it back together yesterday for the morning. And I want a building. I want a space that I can just stay set up, go in, sat down, guests come in, record, see you later. So, I also have to name Heidi and others that were there. The video tech quality from Sunday night, I'm heated and disappointed, but not like mad. I just really realized I got to do some different hustling and I got to raise, I don't know, off the top of my head, probably a good $10,000 to just upgrade and get the HDMI cameras and the little switcher thing. And so we're working right now. Everything's done through Wi-Fi. And if the Wi-Fi is not good, the quality of the video wasn't good. And so I'm going to have to get Sheena and Dart out, maybe a different venue, bigger, and more time because people wanted more time. So, all right. I am, Nikki, yes and no, because the Java After Dark's a little, there's a little turn up there, and I know the work that you do isn't turn up-ish. So, all right, Leslie, I'm aware of the grants and whatnot, and I'm looking into some stuff. But again, being a one-man show, shout out to Tay and Rachel that hold me down with the schedule. Tay nudges me a lot, but Rachel nudges me a lot. But Rachel works a full-time job, and I cannot afford to give her what she gets at her full-time and benefits. Tay does the schedule. But yeah, it's the majority is Yeah. So, all right. Enough about that. I'm getting off of here. Love you too, Ma. Oh, okay. I thought you was talking about the work that you do. All right, folks. Heidi, at this point, that worked. At this point now, I need to be I need a part-time person here. That can help out with, Rachel is there definitely, but help out with events and just it's different. And I was talking to Sheena about that the other night. She's had to now pick up a in-person assistant as well. So anyway, whoever would have thought I've crossed over into the world of entrepreneur and business owner and dealing with a tax consultant. As a matter of fact, I owe her an email. Okay, so I'm going to get off of here because there's a lot of stuff today. And we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. Tomorrow or Thursday. I'll know. I actually have a meeting, I think at 11. I'll know at 2 o'clock. I'll know at 2 o'clock whether we're going to have a special guest with us tomorrow morning or Thursday. And so I'll let you guys know about that. Nationally recognized person and can speak to issues of equity from a national level. And so I'm praying that they work this out for 9 a.m. All right. Okay. Heidi said, me too. Got news for you. Java Nation is in the building. Shout out to Selena. Good to see you, sis. You right on time, but we get ready to give the benediction. We will see you guys tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'll update you if that special guest is on tomorrow at 9. And don't forget to save the dates for right now of March 23rd through 25th. I still have to figure out what we're doing for anniversary. Part of me wants to keep it simple, so I don't have no anxiety. But part of me, 3 years is just, it's 1 year is definitely dope. 2 years cool, but 3 years, like, yeah, we're getting there. So save those dates, March 23rd through 25th. Save the date of June 21st for Java with Jimmy on the waterfront, aka Java with Jimmy family cookout. We'll let you know about that. I can't give any more details yet, but the funder said I can at least tell y'all to save the date. All right, that's it for me, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Whether it's just me